Welcome. Welcome to Librarians supporting universal broadband to continue providing essential services to communities everywhere. Amid the big shift to digital rushed in by the pandemic, librarians, we are the ones we have been waiting for to effect change, to position libraries as key players within global and national bodies, to develop partnerships, to strengthen libraries to provide essential services to our communities deeply impacted by COVID-19 during the pandemic, the aftershocks, and beyond. Ifla has championed the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for a long time. In fact, Ifla is very aware that digital inclusion, equitable access to crucial content, ICT competencies, and media literacy, and support for online learning all are important elements of leveraging the internet for development and recovery. Libraries can help realize this potential. Now is the time to finally close the digital divide. Recently, Ifla's board, and I quote, approved a new statement on libraries and open and good governance, which will be published shortly. An important facet of access to information is access to government information as a basis for transparency, accountability, and participation in government. For this, we need broadband to stay connected. Therefore, this is a timely statement that Ifla says, and I support, that it will serve both as a tool for Ifla in advocacy at the United Nations and for Ifla's members in their own advocacy. Globally, organizations are also supporting connectivity, internet, broadband. The theme for this year's Internet Governance Forum was Internet for Human Resilience and Solidarity. They have stated that inclusion achieved by access to the internet is a key contributor towards a stronger economy and enhanced economic development through shared wealth, shared employment, and equal opportunity for all. And it is an enabler towards the fulfillment of the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. UNESCO has indicated that broadband is the missing link in global access to education. COVID-19 propelled a massive shift to digital, which made evident the reality of inequality of access to the internet, which also plays into the mission and operation of libraries. The pandemic brought up to light opportunities for libraries to stand up and stand out. It also brought up inequalities and the disparity of access to the internet. While many of us use the internet for work, education, visits with the doctor, transactions with government agencies, and social life, the Web Foundation says that yes, the internet has been a lifeline in 2020, but not for 3.5 billion people. These billions of people are limited from continuing their education and work because they do not have connectivity. Together, librarians from all over the world, we can labor to bring universal broadband. This supports connectivity, making libraries hubs of digital inclusion, which directly impacts our community's socio-economic and innovation culture. Libraries can definitely have a central role in the economic and social recovery after the pandemic. Libraries have the potential to level things up, promoting digital inclusion as well. This is part of, as ALA Tracy Hall said, our fight against information poverty, which she identifies as one of the big social justice and public health issues of our time. And I absolutely agree that libraries have an important role to play in addressing digital and information inequalities. As we know, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals encourage us to not leave anyone behind. Broadband in libraries is needed by patrons to access devices, collections, and information, and a myriad of services. It is also used by librarians to create and develop content accessed by patrons and provide access to transformative resources to better the education and lifelong learning of communities deeply impacted by COVID-19 in all regions of the world. We must do everything in our power to help countries achieve development, which includes supporting universal broadband for women, girls, low-income populations, students, tribal communities, seniors, vulnerable groups, working to avoid disenfranchising members of our communities. Libraries are the bridge for democracy engagement. So what we need, this requires immediate action. Ifla is already leading the way, and we ought to continue this path to drive the change we need to place libraries at the decision-making tables within government and organizations. Partner or strengthen existing partnerships with global and national bodies, supporting subsidies, review of rules and procedures, addressing information structures and digital inclusion, supporting diverse infrastructures, and demonstrate how libraries are impacting communities, bettering the education and prospects of people in the communities they serve. Equip libraries and librarians with tools for advocacy. Use these tools, statements from Ifla and Ifla campaigns, such as the Library Pledge for Digital Inclusion. And let's see that slide on the screen. The Library Pledge for Digital Inclusion to support advocacy at national and international levels. I think we have to go, yes, that's the Library Pledge. I encourage everyone to sign it if you have not. Let's work together, united, to support universal broadband, bring change, and impact our world. Together, we can do this. And now, let's go to the next slide. I am glad to introduce our speakers for today's event, sharing news about what I just shared with you about how libraries are helping communities and sharing considerations on why it's important and how to move forward towards this urgent goal. We are pleased to welcome Dr. Jesus Lau, co-chair of the UNESCO Global Alliance for Partnerships on Media and Information Literacy, GAP-MIL, Katharina Esberg, Library Director, Helsingborg City Libraries and Ifla Governing Board Member, and Sanjay Kumar Bihani, Library and Information Officer, Ministry of External Affairs, Bachelor House Annex, Tilak Marg, New Delhi, India, and Ifla Governing Board Member. Welcome to all, and we'll start with Jesus. We're taking questions at the end.
Thanks, Aloyda, for this good introduction to the topic. My presentation is basically on media and information skills and what UNESCO is promoting. Deline is going to help me to move the slides so I can focus on the presentation. I was elected to be co-chair of the Media and Information Literacy network that UNESCO created about 10 years ago. And this is a post for 2 years. I already have spent one. And we're doing some, well, I would say lots of activities to promote media and information skills. And I will explain a little bit more about that. Next one, please. So the 3 topics that I'm going to touch in this brief 12 minutes is to talk about MIL Alliance. That is the new name that UNESCO has coined for this network. It was changed in October. some of the changes are being brought into the website now, and hopefully by the beginning of next year, we'll have a new website with this new abbreviated title that is going to be MIL Alliance instead of GovMIL. And I will talk a little bit about the convergence of media and information literacy, especially for our library colleagues. And I will end with objectives in the membership procedures to be part of this network. Next one, the link, please. Okay, if we talk in economic terms, economists divide the structure of a country in three parts: infrastructure, structure, and superstructure. In my case, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the superstructure. I think broadband access is crucial, especially during the pandemic, and it is essential for anyone if we want to take part in our work, our studies, or our individual lives. However, the next one is access to information. Besides having, this highway access, we also need to have access to whatever is going through this highway. And the third one is to have the skills to drive in this highway. In other words, besides having the highway, besides having access to it, we need to know how to use media and information for improving our lives. Next one. So I'm going to focus on the third one. Loida asked me to talk about GovMIL and what it does. Well, GovMIL is a concept that, well, the MIL concept was coined about 10 years ago by UNESCO, trying to unite the efforts of two divisions of UNESCO, the communication one and the information division. So they created this composite term called media and information literacy, because both divisions have the goal of creating these critical skills to manage, to contribute, and to use mass media and information. And I think it was a great step of UNESCO in order to unite this concept. However, in real life, the library world is still working on information literacy mainly. And those who are in the mass media sector are still working on media, focusing on media. So we need to have more collaboration among both fields, because both fields aim to have a critical citizen in terms of media and information. And there is literature and documents that UNESCO has published about the full meaning of the concept. You can visit the website at UNESCO just by typing MIL, where you find the current structure of GovMIL, the objectives, our strategic plans, and the things that we are doing to promote media and information skills. Next one, the link, please. This is a network that currently has more than 500 organizations that are part of it. Ifla is part of the MIL Alliance. There are individuals, there are governments, there are research centers, there are educational institutions. And this is a network that is open to anyone. The next one, please. I already mentioned that these two divisions, information and communication, join efforts to have a unique strategy to promote, among national members of UNESCO, the promotion of government policies to develop media and information skills. Next one. Media and information are very important in our lives. We as librarians, or at least in my case, before I joined this network 10 years ago, I used to look down, to mass media as a secondary information source, And I didn't pay that much attention to these sources because they didn't have, the original information. They were not primary sources. However, mass media, all the messages that we get shape our lives. They are very important. They are crucial. They influence the way we vote in political terms, what we dress, what we eat, and how we behave in our society. Mass media is shaping our lives through social networks, the different platforms, through the news, to the films, newspapers, and so on. So mass media is a very important component that we need to manage. We need to have the proper skills to filter and to get away from these sources when they are distracting us from our work or our own objectives, or using them when we need to take these daily decisions. In regard to information, well, we as librarians know that most of the information that we focus tend to be peer review. It's sort of like academic or scholarly information. This information is also crucial because it determines the quality of our learning processes, our decisions, especially the long-term or medium-term ones. So both competences are crucial. One for our daily lives and the other ones for our, I would say, medium or more profound decision-making. The next one, Delene. So the Global MIL Alliance has the objective of influencing governments to take the right decisions to promote media and information literacy. This is not an easy task because governments tend to be difficult to approach, especially the educational sectors. So what UNESCO is doing is trying to develop policies, manuals, to provide to governments. We have had a couple minister level meetings where the benefits of media and information literacy skills have been described to them and encouraged them to take the proper decisions at national level. The next one, please. And let me put my charge. The MIL Alliance has different associations that are part of it. One of them is the MIL University Network. This network is integrated by universities that are doing research on media and information literacy. We publish an annual book, and I would say that for the sake of Katharina, that Sweden has been a very important partner because they have been financing the last annual books of MILIT. And if you want to learn what we are doing, these annual books are a good source. They are free and you can check them on UNESCO's website. At the end of my presentation is a long bibliography where these annual books are integrated. Another group that we have is CLIC. This CLIC focuses on youth. We have a different associations, some at national level, that promote the involvement of youth in the development of media and information literacy skills. There are some regions that are more active than others. And as you know, well, this is a voluntary organization. So the activities in the regions depends on the leadership of the local media and information youth or professionals. We have regional conferences in different parts of the world. We have in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and obviously in Europe. We have also an annual conference. The last one was this October. Unfortunately, as you may guess, because of the pandemic, it had to be online, but it took place in South Korea. You can access the website for the papers and keynotes as well as the materials of the workshops that we had. The previous one was held in Sweden, in Gothenburg. It was a great one. You know, COVID wasn't present at the time. So we really enjoyed the communication with colleagues from around the world. Normally the conference is limited to about 300 members. The next one. The membership to MIL Alliance is free. So I invite my library colleagues and those interested in media and information literacy to join. There is a form that you fill and provide some information to become a member. And we need library representation because a MIL Alliance is mainly integrated by mass media professionals, and we need a library voice. I must say that this is the first time that we have two librarians, Lisa, a colleague from the US, and myself, who are librarians, but the rest are colleagues from mass media. So join us to have a greater contribution. The next one, the link, please. One of our highlights is that we have developed a MIL curriculum for teachers, for those teachers who are preparing themselves to enter the education field. But this curriculum can be used by any educational institution to incorporate media and information skills in their learning programs. The first curriculum was edited or published 10 years ago, and the new one will come out at the beginning of next year. We're working right now, we're 11 of us from different parts of the world, updating this curriculum to include the new developments in mass media and information, such as all the artificial intelligence applications that are used right now. The next one, Ellie. There are online courses. There is one in English and some in other languages that can be used to implement the MIL curriculum. So you don't have to do the job. You could use these courses. The next one. Our last conference, the one that we celebrated in Seoul, was devoted to resisting epidemic. And obviously, the main subject behind these terms was the pandemic and how fake news are affecting the health of individuals and communities. The next one. Here is some links if you want to learn what the MIL Alliance is, general information, our action plan, our conferences, the previous one, as well as the others that we have had in the last 10 years. The next one. There are several publications. There is this one, for example, that if you want to develop national indicators or regional indicators, or even at institutional level, you can use this manual to develop MIL indicators to assess what your institution, your region, or your country is doing in regard to media and information skills. Media and information skills are crucial because they are the power to provide, the data that you may need, the information that you may need to take better decisions or to have a good learning process. The next one, please. Here is a long list of publications. I will not go on it because time is already run. The next one. Here again, there are indicators, concepts, and so on about media and information literacy publications. The next one. Well, conclusions. MIL Alliance promotes media and information skills besides access to information. And this includes broadband. I didn't touch this topic because UNESCO has a specific programs and organizations devoted to that. Our mission is to contribute to have a society with critical skills to use and generate media and information. You can be a member to promote these skills. we as librarians have a great potential because libraries are crucial in information skills. A major goal that we have is to introduce MIL curriculum to teachers' schools. So we hope that librarians that are working with these kind of programs or institutions use this curriculum. And if they do it, we'll certainly have a better society, a society that is critical about the information that they get and that they contribute. Thank you, Loida.
Thank you, Jesus. Wonderful. And this first presentation helped us to see firsthand how libraries are indeed central for community members to help them meet the diverse information needs, as Jesus mentioned, the many skills they need, and how if libraries are working with different partners, for instance, with UNESCO as well, effectively with others, we can help to build skills in media and information literacy. And that will be key as well in the rebuilding that we are going to have after COVID and the aftershocks and beyond. So thank you so much, Jesus, for helping us to see the importance of this matter from where you are sitting right now. And now I welcome two colleagues that have experience and perspectives from different parts of the world. And this will be very useful and as we get reintroduced into broadband. So Katharina and Sanjay, and Katharina starts. Welcome.
Thank you very much. There we go. Now, so thank you for the invitation. Katharina Isberg is my name, and I'm the library director at Helsingborg Public Library in Sweden. And I will try to cover this subject from the perspective from my library, but also go into the global field a little bit, because I think that everything is connected. And when we look into the title of this webinar, Librarians Supporting Universal Broadband to Continue Providing Essential Services to Communities Everywhere, I think that we have different parts in the title. And I really think that the different parts, they build into the future. Supporting universal broadband, we need to advocate for this, and we need to tell decision makers and politicians what we see when we provide our services. And our services are essential, and they are essential when we are in times of crisis as well. And we need to provide these to communities everywhere. And that is not only within the library buildings. We need to provide them also outside our library buildings. I'm working in Helsingborg. It is the number 8 city in Sweden. It's down in the south, close to Denmark, as you can see with this little smiley that is marking where Helsingborg is situated. I actually can see Denmark from our office window. We have a digital library, we have a main library and 9 branches and 1 library bus. And we organize our work in what you are working with, not where you are working. So we are having 4 different departments: read, search, meet, and the digital library media. And the department that is called search, that's the one that is responsible for digital inclusion, working with that. So it doesn't matter if you're working at the library branch or the main library or the bus or the digital library. You work in different departments depending on what you are doing, not where. And we also have a really great collaboration with 11 cities in the region where we are situated. So that's the library. And the library mission, I wanted to include that because I really think that that is something that you all recognize, I hope at least. There are 4 different parts in our library mission. to give everyone free access to information and knowledge, to create inspiring meeting places, quite difficult when we come to a pandemic, to work to promote reading, and to work with digital inclusion. And why we're doing this, of course, in the order to secure freedom of opinion and expression and the participation in the democratic society. And broadband, that is really the base, the foundation in order to provide the services that we give. In the city where I'm working, we are working a lot with digital inclusion, with the digitalization. And the library as such has provided access to internet from the 1990s and forward. And the city was early with providing free connection to Wi-Fi, which was completely open. So in 2013, 2014, we provided a free Wi-Fi connection that without any login at different places in the city. Also, the city is providing open data to the citizens, because we believe that in the city we have a lot of data that we can provide. And that is a democratic aspect as well, just like free access to information, because then the citizens can use the data and provide new services. And the library, we are part of the city. We are not isolated. We need to collaborate with the city, and we need to collaborate much, much more. And we are doing that increasingly heavy, I would say. We are collaborating with a lot of different departments, and we are in line with the city's development and innovation work, as well as our library innovation and development work is part of the cities. We are working a lot with involvement. For example, when we built up our digital competence center, we did involve our library users so that they were part of the solution. And we are working a lot with the visibility, both on an operational and a strategic level. Because I think that when we provide our businesses, we see a lot of things that we need to tell the decision makers and politicians so that they can find out how things are. Because sometimes I think that we think that everyone are digital included, but at the library we see something else. And that also makes the library business become more relevant to the citizens and within the city. And of course, we as all libraries give access to information in different formats, and more of the information becomes digital. But we also give access to the technology. And here is one collection with some of the robots that we have for our library business. But the most important part is actually our expertise, the librarian, the professional. And we are not only giving access to the expertise in the library, but also right here in another place, a meeting place that is held from another department of the city. Because we need to be where people are, not just in the library. And 3 years ago, we started up our digital inclusion center or digital competence center, which we are calling Digidel. That's the Swedish word for digital inclusion. And there we are working to increase the digital inclusion and to give everyone the opportunity to get access to information, get involved in the development of the city's services, and to promote the use of the digital services. And this is also an arena where the city can collaborate and meet the citizens and the inhabitants. And this is something that we started up together with the city's digitalization department. So we didn't do it alone as a library. And I think that that is one of the things that has given us great success, because there are a lot of different departments working with us in this digital competence center. But we are in a pandemic, and we see that there is a lot of people that don't get access to the information, and they don't know how to use the information that they need. And they also don't have the technology. They don't have broadband, they don't have fiber, and so on. And therefore, we have tried to continue to keep limited services open during the pandemic. Right now, we are in a severe situation in the city where I work. But this is something that we feel that we really have to try to provide. And here we have a librarian meeting a user, and they have plexiglass in between them, so they have a safe area. It's not that easy to see, but it's a plexiglass in between there. They also have a shared screen so that the librarian can help the end user with using the technology. And this is one way that we have tried to adjust our services, because I think that that is something that we all need to do much more. We need to continuously adjust, because we are all into the digital shift. And the pandemic has really increased the tempo of that. And we see that the digital divide and the digital excluded, they become, there are more of them than we thought. We see that we get new visitors to the library due to the pandemic. And we see that there is an increased need for help. And in Sweden, it's actually 98% of the Swedes have access to internet. But it's not the same thing with having access and to mastering the technology. And also we see that 10% of the Swedes are not digital included. And that is something that we need to work on as a library. And I would just want to finish this presentation with some thoughts about that everything is connected. There are a lot of global, we have the global vision, we have the sustainable development goals, we have different library manifestos and so on. And those are connected all the way down to our actions. At the national level, we have the Library Law of Sweden, and we have the National Library Strategy of Sweden. On a regional and a local level, there is a lot of policies and steering documents that we need to take into account. And then we have our library plan at our library. And all of this is connected down to our actions. And I would like to remind you about the Ifla Global Vision. This is a really strong tool to use when you advocate for your services. And there are 10 different highlights and opportunities. And I usually use some of them when I give a speech, a presentation, and I do it on different levels. It can be for the politicians or for the staff, or like today. Because I think that showing this is a way to show that we are not alone. We are a lot of people working together. And this is not just a local thing that I am saying. This is something that we are saying on a global level. And this highlight number 4, for example, we embrace digital innovation. And the opportunity says we must keep up with ongoing technological changes. And that we need to do, all of us as librarians. And there is much more to tell you, so I won't do that, but I will give you some links to some resources where we share the work that we are doing at our library, because we have been working on different aspects of this, of the digital inclusion. So I will share these in the chat for you to all to take part of. And this is our way to ensure free access to information and knowledge.
Thank you so much, Katharina. Indeed, we are not alone. We have a great global library team led by Ifla, who is leading and driving this change, right? That we need with different to impact change, our different stakeholders as well. As you mentioned, we do have documents to aid us in this task. I would like to welcome Sanjay now.
Thank you, Loida. My presentation is mostly towards the universal access of internet, from a luxury to a necessity. And yeah, so I will touch upon some kind of Indian backdrop and some connectivity related initiatives by Indian government and other issues regarding the safety and security of the internet and building trust on the internet, then the collaboration, digital inclusion, and also libraries and universal access and some kind of public-private partnership approach and educational programs, digital literacy, and the way forward. So everyone knows that COVID-19 has made us a different thinking, and it brought the importance of the internet into sharp focus. And some of the major uses of internet are e-commerce, e-learning, knowledge sharing, interaction, diversity of media, communication, and all that. And due to this pandemic, our way of life, work, education, social activities all become dependent on internet. Like clean water, electricity, healthcare, broadband access has also become a modern day necessity. And the COVID-19, after the COVID-19, ensuring closure of economy and restrictions in the in-person interactions make this seem like a new imperative and increased reliance on the internet for our daily lives. And this is important to highlight that urgent need to address this growing digital divide, safety and trust related issues, cyber threats, human rights violations online, and so on. So when we talk about India, India is the second largest user of internet with 750 million internet users, and half of these users added in last 4 years. And this 750 million is more than the total population of USA, UK, Russia, and South Africa put together. So it's a very big number. But still, India has some highest gender gap in the access to technology. According to the Global System for Mobile Communications Association's 2020 Mobile Gender Gap Report, only 21% women are mobile internet users, while 42% men have mobile internet access. So there is a gender gap in India. And also the rural gap, like 66% of country's population lives in its villages, but rural internet density just 25.3%. And backward regions, hilly areas, and large avenues of rural India still struggle to achieve quality or uninterrupted access to the internet. India towards better connectivity, and the government of India has taken initiative National Broadband Mission to provide broadband access to all villages by 2022 at an estimated stakeholder investment of rupees 7 trillion. And government has also providing universal and equitable access to broadband services across the country, especially in rural and remote areas. They have also planned 3 million root kilometers of optical cable that is planned to be laid for this connectivity, providing to the villages. And there are mobile tower density that is also expected to increase from 0.42 to 1 tower per 1,000 of population by 2024. And this number of towers will be increased to 1 million. I, as a librarian, very much interested in the internet governance and all the related issues of this digital inclusion, digital literacy, safety, security. And safety comes the first. So because every individual is entitled to feel safe while using the internet, to perform his or her legitimate activities there, and also the transaction that relates to the financial and other things. That is also without the fear of loss of money, personal information, reputation, or freedom. Increase in the human activities are being mediated through digital platforms. And surveys have shown a large decline in the trust on the internet, as we are seeing a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news going on around the social media platforms, and very people are forwarding it, using it, sharing it. So this is very, very important point. And how we can build the trust online, how we can build this trust. So to combat the spread of misinformation and disinformation that leads to the erosion of online trust, there needs to be appropriate accountability and transparency measures. That is very, very important. The governments has to do, big industry players who are connected to this, and media plays a major role in building this online trust among the users of the internet. And this building online trust is not easy due to unfamiliarity of digital technology among users, because many of our users are not familiar with the digital technology, mobile technology, this internet and its related things. So it's very not that easy job. So building this trust is very, so transparency is also very, very important, and every user should know how his or her data is used. So this is the data privacy laws and all these things. It should be very, very transparent. So all this needs the collaboration among the stakeholders, and technology is not and should not be the only panacea for building trust. We can't say that technology can build all this trust. This trust has to be strong internet community, and collaboration has to build this strong internet trust, because we have to collaborate from bottom-up collaboration and not the top-down. We have to bottom-up collaboration and cooperation among multi-stakeholders groups from form the basic building blocks of this trust. And through this multi-stakeholder cooperation, users empowered to hold big platforms and accountable and seek better transparency from governments. There are some key questions regarding this, and I think the first people who governs the internet and the government has to take seriously. These are the what methodologies and tools are needed to help people use the internet and digital technology with confidence. The other is what regulatory approaches can increase trust between users and the platforms. What are the roles of all stakeholders in building online trust? And what is the role of the media, including online media and the social media, to build this trust? Everyone knows that digital inclusion is a very much requirement for this universal access to information or universal broadband. It's a fundamental requirement for a truly multilingual and digital inclusive internet. because the aim is all persons and communities be given the opportunity to use the internet to receive and impart information regardless of their socio-economic status, gender, age, disability, or beliefs. And the affordability and reliable connectivity, these are also must be provided to all sectors of the connectivity. Either it is a rural or urban, all genders and sexual orientations, persons with special needs, underserved or unserved communities, marginalized communities, immigrants, refugees, and everyone. Then only we can have this digital inclusion. We have this universal access, and universal broadband service refers to government efforts to ensure access of internet to all citizens. And this internet access is not a luxury, but it's instead in moral human rights, and everyone should have access to the internet. To realize this dream of a digitally inclusive India, the internet will have to be made publicly available at a very, very discounted rate for low income. And I would like to share that I think India is the lowest broadband rates in the world to provide the internet services to their users. Community needs to be more aware than ever of this universal access initiatives and mobilize local players to generate actions for this change. This includes the civil society groups, businesses of all sizes, and governments of all levels. And this universal access and connectivity to ICTs need to be improved to really help to achieve these 17 Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, and also to repair the damage caused by this COVID-19 pandemic in the future. Libraries and universal access, and libraries are always a source of information and access of information to the communities and citizens. Libraries serves users from all walks of life with no discrimination. Libraries can help partner for digital literacy among users for this access to internet or access to information. Libraries can provide platforms, training for getting this right information in the right time and in the right personal way. So for all this, we need really a public-private partnership approach that is considered appropriate for promoting and implementing digital inclusion activities, especially where there is a need to build internet infrastructure and supply devices to be connected to the networks. This is also required to ensure that affordability for users does not become an issue when governments give way to PPP. I mean, affordability is not an issue when the government provide a public-private partnership. And in rural communities, the basic training and use of ICT and internet services is a priority activity as one of the main deliverables from this public-private partnership implementation of this digital connectivity. There are some norms and standards, and these are to be followed, must reflect the diversity of individual experiences, cultures, and legitimate developmental needs in all societies, encouraging people to create local content on the internet in their own language. So the strong international efforts must be made to improve intercultural understanding and overcome this misinformation, disinformation, and mistrust among the users. And those setting norms and developing technical standards must link and listen to the views and needs of all sectors, including the grassroots communities. There should be educational programs. These must be modernized to teach young people how to use the internet for good, respecting human rights, and how to create content which reflects and supports the values of diversity and equity and the need for social cohesion. These programs must be available to all regardless of gender, with educational background, content adapted to different age groups and learning ability. The local content must also be considered for creation and promotion to attract users from relevant communities, especially the rural or underprivileged communities where there is less use of digital services. And digital literacy and information literacy is very important for universal access to information, and all sectors and stakeholders should contribute to the development and implementation of national policies for the provision of programs and resources for education and training for this digital literacy. And it should be understood as life skill essential to transact businesses, undertake research, access education, participate in government processes, maintain health, protect the environment. The internet community should collaborate with established information providers, especially the library and education sector services, to ensure the most effective use of these resources in the digital literacy. Again, there are some key questions that with norms and standards should nations adopt to underpin equitable opportunity of using the internet across socioeconomic status, gender, age, disability, or belief? How do we ensure more evidence-based policy formulation at national level for this digital inclusion? And what are the roles of all stakeholders in building a more inclusive and equitable internet? Human rights and ethics is very important part, and there are some countries or states, they have made universal broadband as a human right, and in one of the Indian states of Kerala, they have also made a law, internet is a human right, and human right must be at the core when developing online applications and services. Ethics should guide the development of ICT infrastructure and applications, especially when they impact the right and well-being of individuals. It is really very important that the interest of individuals and societies are placed at the center of how the internet is managed and regulated. Meaningful access to the internet is a necessity. It's a precondition for individuals to exercise and enjoy their human rights online and offline. And digital divides based on gender, disability, geography, and economic conditions influence the rights of individuals and communities. This requires urgent attention of the states for ensuring universal affordable access to internet. Private sector entities, especially social media platforms, have been increasingly moderating our rights in the online space, which have a significant offline implications as well. The key question in this regard should be, how can policies, definitions, and interpretations under national law focus on protecting digital rights? And how can international agreements on fundamental protection for all digital citizens be evolved? What ethical codes, standards, and best practices, as well as regulatory approaches needed to translate the concerns around human rights and ethics into implementation actions? And how can we ensure that multi-stakeholder processes are inclusive and that governments engage in open and inclusive engagements with all stakeholders, including civil society and the technical community? And how do we ensure privacy of all individuals is protected and concerns relating to securities and safety are addressed? And what remedies can be evolved to holistically tackle this misinformation and disinformation and fake news? And the way forward is the internet remains the crucial tool that allows us to continue to move our society forward. And we need to develop solutions to address the mainly remaining questions under the cybersecurity, safety, trust, explore ideas to further digital inclusion, gender equality and diversity, safeguard human rights and ethics, and keep investing in innovation and development towards the sustainable development goals. We need multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral, and multidisciplinary cooperation, and taking valuable lessons learned in how the global community innovated during this pandemic lockdowns and restrictions makes it even more important. So these are few of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. you talk about topics of human rights and ethics, which are very important. And it remind me my days on the Ifla Faith Committee, where we did went around the world talking about this, how important it is. And it's definitely a human right to be have and enjoy access to information on the internet and broadband, right? Um, you mentioned something also very important in terms of grassroots and practitioners that have a central key role in this type of advocacy. And that's very important because those are the people that are day to day with our communities, our library users. And so it's very important to keep this in perspective, as you mentioned. And the last thing I want to mention is that India has this wonderful goal on having national broadband in all the villages by 2022. That's very ambitious. You mentioned there are millions, 750 million, which is a few continents could be put that into that population. And so it's wonderful that libraries are part of this. It sounds like they are part of this effort as it should be. And so it's a great, it just reminds me also, it makes a great story to share with the Ifla members as well. Amazing work. So let's see if we have questions here. Okay. We have, and I want to say that I want to probably congratulate Sanjay. We have a nice representation from India, and they're on the chat and also asking questions. So that's wonderful. The interest is great. And I will then start first asking Katharina something, because the human rights piece of this remind me that there are countries in Scandinavia that have worked some maybe laws or bills, measures, where they state that is a human right, or there is a right for the citizens to enjoy certain broadband. Is that correct? Or is this is too technical for us this morning? But definitely there is, we can see a digital divide in the countries that are in the north, global north, as the United Nations mentions them, and the global south or south-south. And I wanted to have the perspectives from different regions of the world, because we can see how important it is for us to, in a very cohesive way, work towards this goal that is challenging, right? It's a humongous goal, but we have to start somewhere. And I think these conversations and also looking and building onto what Ifla already has done is important. Would you like to add something else?
I could just add that, yes, it's right that in Sweden and in all the northern European countries, there is a huge access to broadband, fiber, and so on, both within the cities and also on the countryside. The countryside is always more difficult. But also that even though we do have access, we still see the digital divide. And that is really something to take into account, because it's so easy for decision makers to say that, or to think that it is all taken care of, but that's not true. And that is something that I really think that the library need to work on, to talk about it and make it visible, make the problem visible.
Yes, definitely. And the pandemic has brought to light that type of inequalities as well. I wanted to ask Jesus, you've been listening to these presentations, and with your perspective of the information literacies, would you like to now shed some light in, after we have listened to our colleagues?
You mean comments about broadband, or?
Yes. From your perspective and from what we already have heard this during this time.
Well, as I said during my presentation, broadband is crucial. For example, Mexico is broadcasting basic education during the pandemic through two different channels. One is to public TV, which requires less, you don't have to have internet access. But those who use TV cannot interact as those who are getting, their lessons using the internet. So broadband has become the road to success or the road to failure, I would say, for those kids who have or who do not have internet access. Along with that is the challenge that many schools do not have the proper library facilities to provide the services, through internet or in digital form. Especially, like India, rural communities have greater challenges. The suburban areas also in our cities have this big hurdle. So there is a lot to be done, and I really saw the slides of Shanghai. They are great. I admire India in taking these steps. Mexico is also doing some work on that, trying to provide free internet access. However, the road that we have to take is a long one. There are free places where people can go, and you can see the kids going to places, even libraries, going to those closed libraries and sit outside to get the internet access.
Thank you so much, Jesus, for your perspective. We don't have much time, but I want to ask Sanjay to also share with us last remarks.
I would also like to tell you that India recently, last week, passed the Public Wi-Fi Act. And that Public Wi-Fi Act is to provide Wi-Fi hotspots to remotest part of the country. And that can be a small shop or a library or a school or anything. So they passed this act, and it will be implemented as soon as possible. But they have not yet decided how it will be, charged, and what will be the charges for that. So maybe it may be free, or they may have some charges so that they can have compensate the person where it will be, and also to also the maintenance and all these things.
Thank you so much. So yes, this is a big global conversation, and this is very timely since Ifla is already leading the way. And thank you so much to all the speakers. I would like to give time if someone wants to add something else.
Well, my last remark is join MIL Alliance. I think we need a library presence, a stronger one.
Thank you so much, Jesus, for being the light in that sector as well. And thank you to the speakers and also to the ALA staff members for helping us and supporting us in this technology. This is one webinar, but it's with the hopes that we can ignite conversations and we can motivate and encourage more conversations globally and together with Ifla. So thank you so much to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.